Okay, and I'm back. All right. I'm sorry about that, everybody. I was trying a new software, and it was not working out too well for me, as you could tell. It was not streaming very well, so second attempt, doing it regular now. We'll do it the regular way now. There we go. We're all good. All right, awesome. So, as I was starting to say earlier, I've been paying attention to the PC leadership. That's been what's been going on, and it is now past 8 o'clock, and we were supposed to figure out the results by 3, and it has been an absolute complete shit show. So let's see if I can remember everything going back to the beginning. So really the problems began all the problems began when we were just talking about when the PC party first announced that they wanted to do a online vote. This didn't sit well for a lot of people. I know it certainly didn't sit well for me. Probably not a lot of you. Probably didn't sit well for a lot of you as well, because there's a lot of potential to rig it, cause problems, as we're seeing right now. A lot of the servers one of the problems they're saying is the problem is that these servers aren't tallying the votes properly. But another problem is that the PC party has either been ill prepared intentionally, like it was either intentional, or they were just ill prepared for all the memberships that came in. They should have known that this was going to be a big issue for a lot of Ontarians. But instead of actually preparing for it and getting these memberships out, instead they dropped the ball. And one thing I thought was very particularly interesting, I noticed, is that I bet it was the Russians. I bet it was the Russians too. Not actually. But one of the crap, I got distracted. Thanks, Top Leaf. You distracted me. Now I forgot where I was going with that. Anyway. Thanks, Top Leaf. You threw me off my game. So anyway, getting back on track. One thing that was clear to me was that Doug Ford was not really the stereotypical leader that the PC party wanted. It wasn't exactly the type of people that they had been running over the last few years as a candidate. And I thought it was particularly interesting. Now I'm remembering where I was going. I thought it was particularly interesting that with all the problems that they were having with the memberships, a lot of them were actually focused in the Grand Toronto area. And that's particularly interesting because that's coming from where Doug Ford's from, where a lot of Ford Nation's base support is from. So this almost seems like it's intentional to me, not to mention that Caroline Mulroney was the one getting all of the press over the last little bit. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I've been getting countless calls from Caroline Mulroney, countless recorded messages from either her or from members of her party that are just keep telling me, oh, come out and meet Caroline. Vote for Caroline. We really, we want to change Ontario, make a new tomorrow. Like I'm supposed to believe that from her. So not a lot of people have gotten their memberships, and this has also not been strictly to new members. This has also been old members who are not receiving all of their their voter confirmations. And though everything was supposed to be done by mail too, you're supposed to receive everything in the mail, which I did. But a lot of people have now, the PC party was so disorganized by the end that they were getting all their information via email. Yeah, so you fucked up a lot when. So then when this convention sort of broke out, when everything was going on today, it seemed like there were going to be some delays. Okay, it happens. People, for the most part, are reasonable that things like these happen. But then the delays kept getting longer and longer. It ended up being, we were told half an hour, wait a half an hour, and then we'll have results for you. Then it became, well, we need, another hour on top of that. Next thing we know, it's 8 o'clock and we still have nothing. Although it seems from a lot of insiders are saying from what they've heard that Doug Ford will be the new leader. I really hope this is true because, well, I even noticed somebody in the chat said it, is that Ford is like Trump. And yeah, that's a lot of true in a lot of regards, because we're facing a lot of the same situation that a lot of Americans felt. A situation they felt, a sentiment they felt back when in the 2016 election, when Trump was coming in. It's the fact that the people in charge didn't represent them, even in the slightest. And the media was definitely defending Obama hook, line, and sinker, even though they sometimes came out with critical pieces. Sometimes. I say that because it was very rare. The main reason that people wanted Trump was because they saw somebody who was going to come in, they were going to change things, and on top of that, they were actually campaigning on what the people want. They were campaigning on a populist platform, something we really have not seen for a while. No politician has actually really represented the people for, no politician has actually represented the people for a long time, especially up here in Canada. Can you name one person recently who, can you name one politician recently who really you would say is a politician for the people, one who fights for the people? Even the ones that I would say do a good job, I would say that more or less they're still caught up in their ideologies. They're still caught up as being part of a member of caucus. They don't really remember what it was like being one of us, if they ever were one of us. It's actually funny, Top Leaf, you say Maxime Bernier, but he actually got offered the leadership of the Libertarian Party of Canada. I think he turned it down. That would have been kind of interesting to see, though. But getting back on track, we can't. The one thing that a lot of Ontarians have noticed is the amount of promises that have been broken from the Kathleen Wynne / McGuinty government. And one of the big ones is, let's not forget that it's definitely making its way around online these days as we're getting closer to election. And it was a contract that Dalton McGuinty signed with the people of Ontario, where he said that if you vote me in, I will not raise any taxes. Well, look what ended up happening. I mean, putting McGuinty aside, and taxes went up under him enough, and enough scandalous things happened under him. Putting him aside, Wynne was only taking over for McGuinty, for his government. She was a continuation of the McGuinty government, meaning that contract still should have been valid between the people and the government. But it doesn't matter. And the one thing that they're focusing on right now is the Liberal Party has to do with the carbon tax promise that Doug Ford wants to implement. And that has to do with how much money that the carbon tax would bring in. And they're saying that how many cuts are going to make. Now they're saying, we're going to have less teachers, doctors, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I seriously doubt that, because Doug Ford himself has shown support for it, has shown support for these institutions. He talked about a lot how he respects doctors and nurses. So I don't think he's going to make these cuts here. But it's how much useless spending has the Wynne government, and just in a larger scale, has the Trudeau government brought us. 1 second. We're hearing that these days about the type of drinking that is being done on Canadian dime, that whenever Trudeau or any of his cabinet members seem to travel, that they will drink loads of beers and shots, and this is all being paid for on our tax dollar. And for Ontarians, the PC party right now for this election is the only choice. NDP have been non-existent as in provincial politics right now. I mean, when do you really hear from Andrea Horwath? Almost never. And on top of that, the one time I can actually remember her making her presence known was when I was on strike, and that was because when my school was on strike, and that was because they were against the back to work legislation after 5 weeks of striking, after 5 weeks of students being out of school. So that's the only representation she has for me. So there's absolutely no way that I'm going to be voting for Andrea Horwath. And then what, we want Kathleen Wynne in again? Yeah, no, we've already done that. We've already been there, done that. Let's not do that anymore. So right now, the PC party is the only option. We have a couple more right-wing parties. These are parties that have broken off since Patrick Brown's leadership, because Patrick Brown, being the red Tory that he was very divisive for people. For the conservatives, the real conservatives, they didn't like him. The socially conservative people and people more right wing, they didn't like him because he wanted to implement carbon tax. He didn't fight back hard enough against Kathleen Wynne's sex education. So they have many reasons not to like him, and this is why we have the branch off of these parties. But they are not relevant in this election. Maybe in the future they can build their way up and steal enough support that they could actually make themselves. But the problem with that too is they're splitting the right-wing vote, which we do not want to do, especially not in Ontario. We do not want to split the right-wing vote at all. And this is something that a lot of people have. And this is, sorry, I just comment. And this is also why a lot of people don't like Patrick Brown. So even if Doug Ford didn't end up making it in as the premier, as the leader, I would want him to run as an independent. And if he ran as an independent, I could actually see him being a person who would, could actually garner enough support to cause some competition in the premiership as an independent. However, oh boy, if Doug Ford doesn't make it in, we're in a really hard position, because we would have Christine Elliott, who I've said before that because of who her husband is, Jim Flaherty, I believe that she might be good economically. But all in all, she's proven her support. She's worked for Kathleen Wynne. She snuck in just before the voting that she might decide to introduce a carbon tax, after first kind of flip-flopping on it, then saying, I am firmly against a carbon tax, and now she's flip-flopping on it again. So we're just getting a Kathleen Wynne light if Christine Elliott wins the leadership. Certified teaches sex education, and she chose was brought up on child support charges. Yeah, one comment: the sex education person she chose was brought up on child porn charges, if I remember correctly. Yeah, you are correct. I believe I remember hearing something about that. And then Kathleen Wynne was still trying to push the exact same sex curriculum after that, despite the fact that that these charges came out, and he was one of the head people in charge of writing this curriculum. I don't remember his name right now, but then they found out there's child porn charges. That means that whole curriculum should have been scrapped. Whatever he had his hand in should have been scrapped right away. But Kathleen Wynne still tried to push this. That's why during, I believe it was the first debate, Doug Ford was absolutely right when he said that that curriculum was pushing liberal ideology. 400 people on child porn last year. I remember last year that there was a lot going on all over the world in terms of child porn and child sex rings that were breaking out. Oh, this also included Canada, but we were talking US, we were talking Europe. It was ridiculous, some of the ones that I saw coming out. I remember there was one site that got shut down that I ended up reading about that was home to about 70,000 online pedophiles that were exchanging videos, They were using, they were exchanging videos, pictures. They were talking about their experiences. And then there was a big bust in Hollywood as well, where I couldn't even find the names. And this is probably the press doing their job to defend the celebrities, but there were supposed to be big name people that we knew, household names, but they were not being charged. However, with everything that's come out since then, perhaps it was someone like Harvey Weinstein. It wouldn't surprise me. But anyway, trying to get back a little bit more to Ontario politics. So things started to get bad too, because as time was going on, as we were waiting for these, we were waiting for the results, we started hearing that the hall where this convention was being held, the leadership convention, that they had to start. We found out that they were starting to kick people out. And at first the story was, is that there was a, a wedding coming in, and then they said they confirmed it was some sort of Filipino bodybuilding competition tomorrow. So they're starting to kick out all the people that were in there. The press started getting kicked out. It was but a lot of people were starting to get angry. And I know that a couple of people from Canadian press got kicked out. Rebel Media got kicked out. And then there was the Crazy Canuck, I believe they are called. They also got kicked out. Let me see here. Yeah, I think it's the Crazy Canuck. Anyway, so this has really turned into a shit show. And we still, as far as we know... Oh, wait. Oh, wait. This is 4 hours ago. Breaking a senior Ontario PC party tells CBC Queens that Doug Ford has won leadership and that Christine Elliott is demanding a recount. Yeah, I don't think that's... I don't know if that's actually confirmed, though, yet, because I'm trying to see that in the news somewhere. And I know it says I don't believe it is. We can't actually confirm that. Like, I don't believe that's actually been called, though. Because I'm looking at this article from the Star. Hold on, you know what? I'll screen share this. Just give me a second here. Where is it? There it is. You're looking at it? Yeah, we are. Alrighty. 1 second. Let me just get... All right, here we go. It says Ontario PC Leadership Convention ends in chaos. After hours of waiting, Tory members were told to go home on Saturday, with the results of the party leadership votes still shrouded in uncertainty. Frontrunners Christine Elliott and Doug Ford were said to be locked in a Hillary Clinton-Donald Trump situation, with one leading the popular vote and the other taking the most riding points. Somebody tell me why that makes me suspicious. I'm not sure if I'm really... This is... This whole thing is confusing, because this is like... From what I could see, this came out only 22 minutes ago. And it's saying that Ontario Progressive Conservative Party has plunged into controversy and even more chaos surrounding its leader. Is it Doug Ford? Is it Christine Elliott still reeling from the Patrick Brown scandal just 6 weeks ago? The Tories now face additional uncertainty around the election to replace him. After Ford apparently won the leadership race on riding points, but Elliott took the popular vote. The hell? Christine Elliott, Doug Ford has won the Electoral College with the riding points, but Christine Elliott has 3,000 more voters. Hundreds of party members awaited for hours at Saturday at Markham Convention Center, only to learn that the vote was too close to call and is being contested. There is a review of ballots underway, PC Leader Committee Chair Hartley Lefton said around 7:30, okay, almost an hour ago, addressing a crowd that had thinned as the dragged on. Okay. All right, hold on. Oop, there we go. Alrighty then, so this whole thing is just a shit show. And yeah, I also saw that this recount, I was seeing that Doug had won too. And now they're saying something different. Like, what is going on here? This is really fucking frustrating. it seems to me like, is it too much to say that it sounds like they're almost trying to rig this? Is that really too much to say? Because I'm seeing this too. In fact, on my Twitter right now, I could see this 4 hours ago. Hold on, I'll screen share this, what I'm looking at right now. There we go. Yeah, 4 hours ago, CBC Ottawa breaking. An senior Ontario PC party source tells CBC that Doug Ford has won the leadership race. Well, I don't know what to make of this, but I can't help but feeling as this goes on that I've said before that I don't trust the PC leadership. I don't trust Vic Fedeli when he says that he's going to root out the rot. But so when I can't help but feel that this is in some way being manipulated by the PC elites right now. It seems no doubt that they would want her to win as their leader, considering that that's the one that many of the the provincial MPs were supporting, or federal MLAs, whichever one you prefer, whichever district you're in. Because I don't know, I know most of the country uses the term MLA, Member of Legislative Assembly, but in Ontario we usually use MPP, Member of Provincial Parliament. Ford should assign Patrick Brown the Women Affairs portfolio. That's a good one. Oh God, I wonder. I don't even think Doug Ford would let Patrick Brown anywhere near. I don't think he'd let him anywhere near the friggin' party. Maybe I'm wrong. He said he'd give Tanya Granick Allen a position in the party. What do you guys think about that, of Tanya Granick Allen? She was interesting, but she was just a one-party voter, one-party leader. You know, she wanted one-issue leader. Sorry, she just seemed to really want the social conservatives and go back a little bit more to a more conservative Ontario. But she didn't really seem to have much more to going on than that. It was just against the corruption in the party, which, yeah, okay, I'm against. Social conservatism, which I'm not a social conservative, but I understand why she's fighting for those principles right now. I know a lot of people probably are. I know a lot of people probably are happy that she at least joined the race. So I wonder what position she might take if she was to be part of Doug Ford's party. I mean, I am getting ahead of myself because we don't know, but everything going around, all the rumors are saying that Doug Ford is the winner. And then now all of a sudden we're just, all of a sudden yeah, nothing. We're supposed to sit here and wait. I don't like this whole waiting thing. I don't like this because we're supposed to have our leader now. And I know this has been fast. This has been a shit show, but the longer we wait, the more I can't help but feel that results are being manipulated. I guess it's just, I don't know. I just wouldn't be surprised if this was the case. I guess I can't really say much more than that on everything. It's just that's just my distrust for the political elites. And in terms of Tanya Granick Allen, she has some good points on education when you think of the future, not just Band-Aid remedies. That's a good point, actually. Yeah, because that is what politics has become these days, I would find. It's not about... nobody wants to rock the boat too much. Nobody actually wants to make the fundamental changes that are needed in some regards in order to improve our future. And all they want to do is Band-Aid our remedies, Band-Aid the past. But we can't do that because we need to, I mean, you can sit there and if you keep reopening a wound, it's never going to heal. You know, you have to move on in order for a wound to heal if we're talking something bad. So we need a complete overhaul of the education system. And I actually find, well, I may actually hold a contrary view to some in the education system. And that's because I have some experience, personal experience with teachers. But from my experience, a lot of teachers actually want the way that the school system works. They want it to be changed because they want to have a more say in what can actually be taught. And as far as I can tell, the real problem is coming from more centralized education. Now the government wants to get more involved and tell you what you can teach, what you can't teach. The school boards have like a authoritarian, almost dictatorial rule where the teachers have to follow the guidelines. I don't know if anybody's been keeping up with what's going on with Professor Mehta over at Acadia University, but he's going through that right now. He's not, even though he's teaching psychology, he's not being given a chance to express his, he's not being given a chance to flex his academic freedom to teach kids about the real problems, the real things they need to learn in society. I mean, I've talked to my wife about this a lot, and we've been talking about how were ill prepared for a lot of things in life. We were ill prepared, for instance, the first time that we had to go and do our taxes. The first time we were sitting there for hours. I think we spent 3 or 4 hours just trying to figure out the system. We had no idea what we were doing. We had no idea what we were doing, and we were ill prepared for this. I was given next to no actual education on the appropriate way to get a job, like how to find a job, get a job, write a resume in school. I've learned more about that in college and university than I have, but that is a necessary skill we need. I like when I was in grade 7 and grade 8, because I don't know, for some, I think school system's a little bit different where you go. The way I went to my elementary school from kindergarten to grade 6, then 7 to 8 was my middle school, 9 to 12 my high school. So when I was in grade 7 and 8, we had wood shop in our school. It was awesome. Every about once a week, maybe twice a week in grade 8. We would go to the wood shop class for a couple hours, you know, learn how to make stuff. It was awesome. But the one thing that my teacher always told me, which I always remembered, was that he said when he first started there decades ago, that they had a wood shop class, which he taught. They also had a metal shop class. They had home ec, so a cooking class, and then they also had sewing. This was all things that everybody learned, whether you were a guy, girl, all things you could learn. And these are all necessary skills because things like metalwork, things like woodwork, these can allow you to make home repairs or improve your house. My dad is somebody who's great with wood shop. His whole life, that has been one of his big hobbies, is creating things using wood. So he's made unbelievably great changes to his house simply by stuff he's made. In fact, my dad himself, when I was a kid, he made me a bunk bed himself, all himself. It was not like the bunk bed with 2 beds, but it was a bunk bed with a bed on top. And then I had a desk down under below where I could do my homework and stuff. It had a little area cut out where I could put a chair, my TV, and my Xbox. It was awesome. It was actually a huge, great setup. When you're younger, you know, and then you get older, you're like, okay, fuck a bunk bed. So these were all important skills that we never learned anymore. There's, I'm glad that my wife actually, she had an interest in sewing and knitting and that sort of thing growing up. So she was taught by her parents, her mom, her grandmother, things like that. So she knew how to sew when we got together. But holy crap, I realize now after moving out that without knowing how to sew, because I have never sewed a day in my life, that a lot of my clothes would be ruined. But she's made a lot of repairs to us. So it's just these little skills that we've lost as people. And it's all due to the education system. It's just, it we're not being taught them anymore, and the kids that are coming out are having, instead, it's an ideological bubble, as we all know, and it's starting to come into the elementary schools. It's really sad that it's gotten to this point. Let's see. Okay. Damn. So it looks like we really need an overhaul in all areas in Ontario. Just there's a lot of problems going now, whether we're talking education, economy. Economy. We could use some more jobs. That'd be nice. What about you guys? You see some more problems around Ontario and the rest of Canada that we need to address? I'm sure I'm going to have at least one of you that's going to end up saying that, we need legalization of marijuana by now. I get the feeling at least one of you is going to tell me that. So right now, I don't think we know when we're going to figure out about the about when our next leader's going to meet. Right now, I think we're kind of left up in the air. We're just kind of going to have to wait for them to make the announcement, I guess. But if you ask me, we need some sort of third party. We need some sort of third party to look into this, some sort of investigative team to look into this whole situation, because I'm very sketchy, because I think in the end there was something about 66,000 people in Ontario who ended up voting in this election, even though they had more than that. They had something like 75,000 that were registered to vote. There was a number more who did not receive their memberships on time. There's another, I won't say he's not a huge YouTube channel, but he's not small. I watch sometimes. It's called the Arana Nation, another Ontario conservative. And this guy he's got about a little bit over 3,000 subscribers, I think, if I remember correctly. He seems to me he's been involved in Ontario politics for some time, and he did not get his information. He actually put out a video saying that he wasn't going to be able to vote. He wasn't going to be able to register in time for this election. And he was a Doug Ford man. Some people felt that this was starting to be targeted to Ford fans, to Ford supporters. And it's possible. I mean, it just seems weird to me. I know when we were talking about the Toronto area as being one of the largest areas where there were memberships missing, where people didn't receive their information to vote. The fact that it was in his hometown, his home area, where he has had so much support, where the Fords have done very well throughout their time. They have done when Ford was Rob Ford, when Doug Ford's brother Rob Ford was running for re-election. This was when he got cancer and he had to drop out. He gained a lot of support as city councilor. Doug Ford gained a lot of support, and they are men. Well, I guess not having Rob Ford anymore, but Doug Ford, they are guys. He is a guy that knows how to get shit done. He's made the tax cuts before. He's made the cuts before, and he's been able to save money. I don't think Doug Ford is just going to be some dumbass going around with a red Sharpie, just cut without thinking about it. Doug Ford, to me, seems like a guy who's put a lot of thought into what he wants to cut, where the problem is. But the other problem he has now is that he has to get into the books before he can really figure out where all the money is that he can cut, where all these useless programs that he can cut from Kathleen Wynne. What do you think of the $2.5 trillion investment coming from the Australian government to help America's infrastructure? Shame Congress can't invest in its own instead of bombs. I actually did not hear about this investment from the Australian government. 2.5 trillion. What would the Australians be doing donating that much money? And to America's infrastructure, of all things? This seems to me like, are the Australians trying to get something from America right now? Or are they trying to work out some I have no idea. I didn't hear about this. I have no idea what this would be over about donating that sort of money to Congress. I don't know. This seems like a large amount to just say that it is them trying to bribe America to stay on their good side, but I would have to look more into it to be sure. But wow, that's really interesting. Huh. Damn. Hmm. Although that being said, instead of bombs, America has too many bombs, and I actually say that Canada could use could use more on its military spending. That's something I'd like to see. I'd like to see Canada build up its military defense, just for the sake of defense. That's it. Just so we have it when we're ready. And well, right now we do have the longest undefended border in the world, which is probably not a record you really want to hold. And we can't really rely on others to keep our country safe. So I would like to see a military, at least upwards of military spending, because it also gives people something to work for. For instance, our Navy is crap. Like half our boats or more or something are in dry dock. Any submarines we own pretty much are like old used one. So I think this would give jobs. This would give the country something to this would give jobs. I think this would give Canada something to focus on, something to work for. And I think that's what really Canada needs right now. It needs a direction, because that's one thing that I think Trump did for America. He gave them a goal: make America great again. I think that's really what he was doing with that slogan, is he was giving the people a goal, something to look for. And then he focused in on a few issues of that goal. So, for instance, cutting taxes, that was one for him. And I think, and then he's also got his border wall and his immigration plan. So Australia has the best border in the world. Damn right, eh? Just surrounded by a bunch of oceans. And you got a bunch of jellyfish that are protecting you too, and some sharks. Damn. Nobody wants to swim over to your border. You don't have to worry about illegal immigrants trying to swim to Australia. Or making that sort of trip. I guess Canada's kind of lucky with its border too, because we are bordered. We do have an ocean on three sides, and then we got a country that we're very good allies on. We're very good allies with, and who are kind enough to keep us safe. What is your opinion on the South African situation and the planned taking back of farms? I think it's fucking awful. I think it's awful because one thing is where it's being completely ignored by the mainstream. A lot of the people that have put their focus on this issue, such as Lauren Southern, and I think Katie Hopkins has too, although I don't follow Katie Hopkins whatsoever. I think I've just heard her name being thrown out there as one of the people. They've had to work very hard in order to expose people to what is going on over there. And I'll even admit that I've heard the stories, but it wasn't until within the last few weeks, I would say, that it wasn't within the last few weeks, I'd say, that I really realized it was that bad. And I think it's awful because people are actually willing, in a lot of ways, in our side, to defend what is going on over there. They'll say, well, this is due to colonialism and blah, blah, blah. This is stolen land. However, from what I can find and what I've heard so far, those settlers in that area, I believe they were Dutch, Dutch settlers in that area, was like uninhabited land, as far as I'm aware. And then they set themselves up as farmers and they passed it down from generation to generation. So there is a big disparity in land ownership there between the blacks and the white communities there. But that was because those settlers who they settled down and they with the land that they could find, and then they passed it through the generations. And then these groups that ended up, and then there was more, I believe, a southern migration with the Shaka Zulu tribe. And this was bringing a lot of violence along with it. So stopping with the history, I actually think that it's fucking bullshit, because nobody is doing anything, and there's literally being families murdered. There are children that are having their throats slit. They're having the fucking Chelsea's grin fucking cutting them. So somebody needs to do something, and I actually think it is the Commonwealth that should do something Canada should do something. Our fucking people, members of Congress, should do something about it. If nobody, they're forced to rely on themselves. I'm not a big interventionist, but this is a perfect way. This is a perfect time to be an interventionist. I'm a soy boy. I'll soy boy in your mouth, motherfucker. Whatever. But now, when we're talking South Africa, the government is actually changing the constitution down there in order to make it so they can. They are changing the constitution to make it, because right now, as the constitution stands, South Africa, they can't. If you're going to take land, the government takes land, which apparently they could do. They need compensation, but that is being changed. So now they can take the land from these white farmers, and they can take the land from these white farmers and give it back to the people, who then literally don't know how to fucking farm. So what are they going to do? They're going to commit a white genocide, yes, because that is what they are pushing for, a white genocide in South Africa. They're going to commit a white genocide. Then, after that happens, and then the farmers are gone, there's not going to be anybody left to farm. So they're going to have a famine. And then millions of people are going to die. Because I believe it was Zimbabwe where that almost the exact same thing happened. Yeah. So I don't know what we can do. The white people down there have started banding together, and I don't know what the group is, but there is a group that is actually going around, that is defending these farms right now. And a lot of these farmers have prepared their supplies in order to escape in case anything happens. They actually believe they're on the brink of a civil war, and this would be a race civil war down there. So this is somewhere I think I talked about this briefly in my last episode, and I said that we take refugees from all over the world, and some of them aren't even real refugees. Some of them aren't even real refugees. So a lot of them, for instance, a lot of them that came in the 2015 economic crisis, a lot of those were economic migrants, people who moved, they fronted as refugees in order to get into a richer country in order to have a better life. So their only refugee is the fact that they don't like the life they have now in the country they have now, and they don't want to go through the appropriate methods in order to do it. So, sorry about that. I was really craving my e-cigarette. Yeah. So if we're going to take on refugees from all over, and refugees who aren't even real refugees sometimes, a lot of times, then I think we can gladly take in some South African refugees if we can. We got to do something to help them, I feel. Again, I'm not an interventionist, but I hate sitting around and watching people get slaughtered over stupid bullshit like this. And the reason that the mainstream media won't talk about it is it goes against their narrative. See, they make their money and they've made their name on the white people are racist, white people are oppressive narrative. So this would go completely against it to see a country where the white people are the minority that are being slaughtered. See, we like to talk over here in Canada, America, North America, Europe about how racist a culture it is, because people will sometimes say nasty shit to each other, and there's sometimes assaults do happen, and every now and then there's a murder over a hate crime. But it's nothing, not even anything remotely close to the rest of the world that some people face. But nobody ever wants to talk about that part. Alrighty. So if you guys have any more questions or anything you more quickly want to ask me, you can ask them now, or I'm going to sign off. Here, 2 people. And the other thing I want to say about South Africa is these are the sort of things that they fuel the alt-right and the white nationalist argument. And I've said before, I'm not a white nationalist, but there are things that the white nationalists say that at least you got to listen to. Now, I find it's very hard you got to pick them out among some of the other things. But all in all, this is exactly because they'll talk about discrimination against white people, but everyone will call them white supremacists. But then, oh my God, now we have a white genocide in South Africa. So, and when the media denies this, it fuels the alt-right, because then people will see the alt-right and say, well, this is a group that is standing up for them. Racist. Let's see, I got a couple here. Why do trees look blue when they're far away? Because you're a retard, Top Leaf. Do you follow Bold Like a Leopard? Great channel. Yes, I do. And actually, I've been on Bold's channel, and he's been on I did a live stream with him. It was the one we talked about military warfare. He joined us somewhere around the 45-minute to hour. And so yeah, I do follow Bold Like a Leopard. I like his live streams. I actually hope to have him back on very soon. Words hurt, Adrian. Suck it up. Suck it up, bitch. Tough shit, Top Leaf. It's okay. He'll have some choice words. We're streaming tomorrow, so he'll have some choice words for me. And the far right is a reaction to the push of the far left. Oh, absolutely. You're absolutely right when you say that. But also what they're focusing on, it will also give regular common people, when they start seeing some of the problems that are being ignored by the press that the alt-right will talk about, it will give them more of an incentive to be pushed towards the alt-right. Alrighty, but that's enough for me tonight. I was getting really fed up with the PC race, so I wanted to come out here, put a few of my thoughts out. All right, I'll have a good night, and I'll be back tomorrow night with Top Leaf, and we'll be talking about a few different projects. Until then, Top Leaf, you suck. Oh, wait. Do you think there is any need for some sort of gun reform? What are you talking about? Well, I mean, Canada or America? Because if you're talking Canada, absolutely not, I would say. Like, we got enough gun control as it is. If you're talking America, I still disagree for a couple reasons, just because I feel that US? Okay, we're talking US then. I still find myself disagreeing for a couple of reasons. If I was in the US, then I would probably be considered a constitutionalist. So because of that reason, I support their Second Amendment right. And that being said, the reason I don't believe a gun reform will work in America now is because there's too many guns. And anything, even if you put the restriction on the common citizen, then I would say if you put the restriction on the common citizen, there's still going to be the criminals who will get their guns through illegal means, and you're just arming the citizens. And as far as I can tell, most of these shootings do occur in places where there is a lot of more gun control. And there's been a few incidents where people have actually gone out of their way, where shooters have gone out of their way to avoid certain areas or certain groups because they worry that they may actually be packing. There's a reason the NRA never gets shot up. And anytime that anybody has tried something like that, they're killed immediately. So for the sake of how many guns that are already in circulation in America, there's about at least a gun for every citizen, at least, and there's probably more. I don't believe now that reforming it would actually make a difference. If you want to put an end to the sort of mass shootings, or something like that. If you want to put an end to the mass shootings, if we're talking sort of school shootings, I would suggest that put your focus in mental health. Number one, put a focus on mental health. This is one of the problems. Fix the family culture, because this is another one. I think is that I think a lot of people who commit these crimes don't have the proper structure in their home life. They don't have the proper relationships with their parents. I think that's a big one. So my two big ones would say is put them into is to fix the family culture, and also put your research into mental health. And I wouldn't put any gun bans or something. If I even were to entertain the idea of gun bans, it would never be for regular citizens. It would only be for very strictly like mental health, people who have been diagnosed with mental health or something like that. In terms of Canada, if we're talking about gun reform as in putting more restrictions, no, definitely not. And if we're talking about loosening gun restrictions, then I would actually be approved to loosen some of the laws regarding guns. You don't have a child that keys the car and say, "Have her done." Go get her. Alrighty. And also, the last thing I was actually going to say on the shootings is I believe that also demographics play a part in it. And I think this is also why we have such a big difference between Canada and America in terms of guns. Or mass shooting, I say. All right, that's it for me tonight. You all have a great night, and I'll see you all tomorrow.